Hello and welcome to the Daily News Simplified, the why, what and how of newspaper reading. Today we will discuss the daily edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 11th July 2018. So let's start. This news article on page number 7 is related to a movement started by the FSSAI, which is the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Now this topic will fall under the preliminary examination syllabus under the social sector initiatives, and in the mains examination and the general studies paper 2 it will fall under the statutory and regulatory bodies. Now in the recently held preliminary examination in the year 2018, a question was asked directly related to the Food Safety and Standards Authority and the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006. So in this article we will try to understand the basic aspects of this movement. We will also learn about some key facts related to FSSAI, and in the end we will try to answer this question which was asked in the preliminary examination in 2018. The FSSAI has started the Eat Right movement. So the name of the movement is important for us from prelims point of view. Further, this movement is based on two pillars or two aspects, that is eat healthy and eat safe. The main aims of this program are to engage and enable citizens to improve their health and well-being by making the right food choices. The target that is laid down in this movement is that it aims to cut down salt and sugar and oil consumption by 30% in 3 years. So the name of the movement is the Eat Right movement. It is based on eat healthy and eat safe as its main aspects. Further, it aims to engage and enable citizens to improve their health and well-being by making the right food choices. And it aims to cut down salt, sugar and oil consumption by 30% in the next 3 years. This Food Safety and Standards Authority of India has been created under the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006. This Food Safety and Standards Act 2006 replaced or repealed some of the acts given below. These acts include the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act 1954, the Food Products Order 1955, Meat Food Products Order 1973, etc. Further, the FSSAI or the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India is an autonomous body established under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Secondly, it has been established under the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006. And this act is a consolidation of statutes relating to food safety and regulation in India. Further, FSSAI or the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India is responsible for protecting and promoting public health through regulation and supervision of food safety. And the chairperson of Food Safety and Standards Authority is of the rank of Secretary to the Government of India. Now, all these aspects of Food Safety and Standards Authority are important for us from the prelims point of view. And these aspects include that it has repealed some of these acts. Further, it falls under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and it is an autonomous body. And secondly, it has been established under the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006. Further, the chairperson of Food Safety and Standards Authority is of the rank of Secretary to the Government of India. Now, the question that was asked in prelims in 2018 read, consider the following statement. The first statement reads, the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006 replaced the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act 1954. This statement is correct as we have learned in this article. Secondly, the Food Safety and Standards Authority is under the charge of Director General of Health Services in the Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Now, this point should be noted that it is not under the charge of Director General of Health Services. Now, this statement is incorrect because FSSAI is an autonomous body under the Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and it is not under the charge of Director General of Health Services. So, this statement is incorrect. So, the correct answer in this case is A, that is one only. With this, let us move on to the next article. The editorial on page number 8 is related to the simultaneous elections to Lok Sabha and State Assembly. This editorial analyzes the issue of simultaneous elections to Lok Sabha and State Assemblies and provides suggestions for practical implementation of simultaneous elections to the Lok Sabha and State Assemblies. Now, this topic will fall under the General Studies paper 2 of the mains examination syllabus. And previously in the year 2017, a question was asked in the General Studies paper 2 in the mains examination. So let us try to understand some of the key aspects of this editorial. The editorial analyzes that political parties across the spectrum are divided on the issue of conduct of simultaneous polls for state legislative assemblies and Lok Sabha. The editorial further says that some of the political parties have expressed their concerns and have even stated that such a proposal goes against the fabric of our constitution. Now, these political parties argue that apart from some financial benefits regarding the reduction in election expenses, the idea still has certain practical difficulties. Some parties fear that national discourse will run over their regional issues and will also prove difficult for regional parties which are politically not that rich as compared to the other national parties. So the editorial says that the opinion of political parties is divided on the issue of simultaneous conducting of elections. Further, various political parties have said that the conducting of simultaneous elections is against the fabric of our constitution. Further, although there are certain financial benefits of simultaneous conduction of elections, there are practical difficulties in implementing this idea. And the regional parties have argued that regional issues will be overshadowed because of simultaneous conduction of elections. To handle the practical difficulties in implementing the idea of simultaneous elections, the editorial says that state assemblies should be bunched into two categories, and this should be done based on whether their terms end close to 2019 or 2024 Lok Sabha elections. So for those assemblies whose term is ending close to 2019 should be put in one category, and for the others they should be put in the second category. And elections can be held for one group in 2019 and for another in the year 2024. And this categorization should be done in order to conduct the elections in a synchronized manner. Further, the editorial provides the concept of constructive vote of no confidence. Now, under this, groups of political parties which suggest no confidence motion should also provide an alternative to form the government. So, the political parties which propose no confidence motion in the Lok Sabha should also provide an alternative to form the government. Further, in case of a midterm election, the parties that form government should remain in power only for the remaining tenure. For example, if a midterm election is held after 3 years, the new government will remain in power only for the remaining 2 years. And the editorial says that to make the above recommendations possible, the constitution needs to be amended to alter the tenure of the newly formed government. So the editorial suggests that state assemblies should be categorized. The political party which proposes a no confidence motion should also propose an alternative government. And in case of a midterm election, the party which comes into power will remain in power only for the remaining term of the government. And finally, a constitutional amendment needs to be brought to implement the suggested measures. So the editorial concludes with the note that apart from above suggestions, the government must also focus on other reforms like curbing the use of black money in elections and smoothing the conduct of elections in India. Now, as we have seen some of the difficulties in the implementation of this idea, you should try and attempt this question from mains point of view. With this, let us move on to the next article. The news articles on page number 1 and page number 11 are related to the visit of South Korean President Moon Jae-in to India. Now, in this visit, various MOUs have been signed between India and the South Korea. Now, South Korea is also an important partner for India's Look East policy. And a question was asked in the year 2016 based on the economic and strategic dimensions of India's Look East policy. Now, this topic will fall under the General Studies paper 2 under the topic International Relations. So, we will try to understand some of the basic contours of India-South Korea relationship. So, the India-South Korea relationship is in news because the President of South Korea, which is officially known as the Republic of Korea, Mr. Moon Jae-in visited India. You should also know that the official name of North Korea is Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Now, the India-South Korea meet was based on the mutual vision for people, prosperity, peace and our future. And both the countries signed 11 MOUs on this occasion. So for us, it is important to understand various aspects of India-South Korea relations. India and South Korea consider their relation to be a special strategic partnership. Now, strategic partnership means a partnership which identifies long-term and overall aims. Now, this special strategic partnership between India and South Korea is based upon, first, deep-rooted historical and cultural bonds. Secondly, shared universal values of democracy. This means that both the countries have democratic form of government. Thirdly, both believe in free market economy. Fourthly, both believe in the rule of law. And finally, both aspire for a peaceful, stable, secure, free, open, inclusive and rule-based region. Now, this region here indicates the Indo-Pacific region. Further, India considers South Asia as a partner in its Act East policy. So, the relationship between India and South Korea is based upon a special strategic partnership, and this is based on historical and cultural bonds and all the values that have been listed here. Further, India considers South Korea as a partner in its Act East policy. Now, both the countries are trying for a third-party partnership. Under this partnership, India and South Korea would explore a tripartite partnership for development in third countries. This means that both the countries will work jointly in any third country. For example, both the countries would begin with the capacity building programs in Afghanistan. So here three countries will be coordinating, that is Afghanistan, India and South Korea. So this means that India and South Korea would be exploring for tripartite partnership, that is three countries will be involved in such partnerships. Now regarding the historical and cultural ties, there is a legend related to Princess Suriratna. And Princess Suriratna was a legendary princess of Ayodhya who went to Korea in 48 AD and married King Kim Suro of royal Korean family. A large number of Koreans trace their ancestry to this legendary princess. So based on this legend, India and South Korea have agreed to expedite the work to upgrade the monument of Queen Suriratna or the Hur Wang Oke in Ayodhya as a joint project to celebrate their shared heritage. As far as economic cooperation is concerned, South Korea has shown keenness in partnering in India's flagship initiatives, which include Make in India, Skill India, Digital India, Startup India, and Smart Cities. A prime example of such partnership is Samsung, which is a South Korean company, has formed a new manufacturing facility in Noida, Uttar Pradesh. So the opening of such facilities in India reflects South Korean partnership in programs like Make in India. Further, South Korea would continue to support India's infrastructure development projects through Korea Economic Development Cooperation Fund and export credit. Now, regarding trade cooperation, India and South Korea want early conclusion of ongoing negotiations to upgrade Republic of Korea and India Comprehensive Economic Partnership or the SEPA. So both the countries want an early conclusion of these SEPA talks. And for finalizing the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, both the countries have finalized the elements of an early harvest package that would lead towards an upgraded SEPA. Now, early harvest package simply means that both the countries have already started cooperating on various trading elements or trading aspects. So, even before the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement is finalized, both the countries have already started cooperating on various aspects of trade. Now, the benefit of early harvest package is that it would facilitate ongoing negotiations on upgrading the India and Korea SEPA by identifying key areas of trade liberalization, for example, marine products. Further, both the countries are committed to their support for complete denuclearization as well as lasting peace and stability in the Korean Peninsula. And both the countries support North Korean denuclearization. Further, both the countries are working together to prevent proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. And they don't want these weapons to get into the hands of terrorists and non-state actors. Further, South Korea is supporting India's membership to the Nuclear Suppliers Group. So the key aspects of India-South Korea relation include, first, both the countries consider the relation to be a special strategic relationship. Secondly, both the countries are working towards a third-party partnership. Thirdly, both the countries have a shared heritage and have agreed to expedite the work to upgrade the monument of Queen Suriratna. Fourthly, both the countries are cooperating on economic front. For example, South Korea is showing keenness in the major flagship initiatives of India, for example, Make in India. And an example to this cooperation is the opening of Samsung's facility in Noida. Fifthly, both are cooperating on trade front and want early completion of the negotiations related to the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Further, both are committed to North Korean denuclearization and South Korea supports India's membership of the Nuclear Suppliers Group. Now, as India has various economic and strategic interests in the Indo-Pacific region, according to its Look East policy, the relationship with South Korea becomes very important. And we have seen various aspects of strategic and economic dimensions in the India-South Korea relationship. So such examples can be used in questions like this. With this, let us move on to the next article. This news article on page number 13 is related to the decreasing prices of pepper in some of the southern states of India. Now this topic will fall under the General Studies paper 3 under the topic issues related to agriculture. So under this article, we will try to understand issues that are leading to a decrease in the prices of pepper crop in southern states. The news article says that a sharp fall in the prices of black pepper has been witnessed. Further, there is a decrease in the production of spices in the southern states. Now this is adversely affecting the farmers in some of the major pepper producing states like Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. So this decrease in the prices of black pepper and low production is adversely affecting the prospects of farmers in these states. Now some of the reasons for the decrease in the prices of black pepper include, the first is the increased import of pepper from Vietnam, which is routed through Sri Lanka. Now this is happening because India has a South Asian Free Trade Agreement or the SAFTA Pact and Indo-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement with Sri Lanka. Now under this agreement, India can import 2,500 tons of pepper a year from Sri Lanka, and that too without a duty. So the Vietnam is routing its black pepper through Sri Lanka into India using the South Asian Free Trade Agreement and the Indo-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement. The second reason for decrease in the prices of black pepper is the smuggling of black pepper from Vietnam via the neighboring or the bordering countries of India. These countries are Bangladesh, Myanmar and Nepal. Now the prices of such smuggled black pepper is low because it avoids the payment of GST. And due to this, the price of smuggled black pepper is around rupees 200 per kg. Now this price of black pepper is lower than the price of black pepper that is produced by Indian farmers. Now to reduce the quantity of imports of black pepper, the Ministry of Commerce has imposed a minimum import price of rupees 500 per kg. Now despite the fixing of such minimum import price, the amount of imports is not decreasing. This is because India is a major exporter of black pepper to Brazil, and the exporters find it convenient to source the smuggled black pepper from Vietnam, which is cheaper, and due to this, the profit margins of the exporters increase. Further, a disease called quick wilt disease is leading to lower production of black pepper in India, and this is adversely affecting the prospects for the farmers. Another issue that lead to decreased profitability for the farmers are high input costs and low production of spices. So the decrease in the prices of black peppers is due to increased imports from Vietnam, which is routed through Sri Lanka. The prices are further reduced because of smuggling of black pepper from Vietnam. And this low cost black pepper, which enters the Indian market through smuggling or the imports, is used by exporters to export it to markets like Brazil. And the reason for low production of black pepper is a disease called the quick wilt disease. Further, the input costs are high, and due to the low prices of black pepper in Indian market, the profitability for the farmers decreases considerably. And these factors collectively are adversely affecting the prospects for Indian pepper farmers. Now, a direct question on the reasons for the decrease in the prices of pepper is highly unlikely in exam. However, the issues that have been mentioned in this article can be used in questions such as how are government policies adversely affecting the profitability of plantation farmers? So you can cite the issues that have been highlighted in this article as example. For example, you can mention that India-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement is leading to increased imports, and due to this the prices are falling, which is adversely affecting the plantation farmers. Further, the re-export of this cheaply imported black pepper is another issue which is adversely affecting the farmers. And thirdly, due to increased smuggling, low cost black pepper enters the Indian market. So all these are examples which can be used in questions like this. With this, let us move on to the next article. The article on page number 9 is related to the use of big data analytics in reducing the number of people which are impacted by natural disasters. Now this topic will fall under the General Studies paper 3 of the mains examination under the subtopic Disaster and Disaster Management. Now previously in the year 2013, a question was asked related to the disaster management, and so let us try to understand in what ways the data analysis will help us in reducing the loss of lives due to disasters. Now big data simply means extremely large data sets that may be analyzed computationally to reveal patterns, trends and associations. Now this analysis of patterns, trends and association can be used for certain predictions, and that is why big data has big utility in disaster management. Now let us look at the use of big data in the disaster management. Now the article says that big data can help in efficient allocation of resources. The article explains that data can help identify the gaps and make recommendations on where to allocate resources to mitigate risks from the disasters. Now this will also help in monitoring the recovery, focusing on early warning and assessing the resilience of the system. Further, the data can also help in the identification of the most vulnerable people. So the editorial explains that big data can be used to identify the most vulnerable populations from the natural disaster. And data on these communities can be used to pursue risk-informed development. For example, flood-resistant roads can only be constructed if the governments consider and review the data about flood risks. With such information, they can allocate appropriate funds for better road construction. So there is no need of constructing flood-resistant roads in all areas. And flood-resistant roads should only be constructed in those areas which are vulnerable to flood risks. And for this, the data will help us in analyzing the information related to the flood risks. Thirdly, the data analysis can help us in analyzing the indirect impact of disaster. The article explains that by analyzing the indirect impact of disaster, it will help governments to anticipate indirect impact of disaster and reduce the risks. So the article explains that big data analytics can help in identification of indirect impact of disaster, and also it will help in mitigation efforts of such indirect impacts. Now, providing an example, the article says that it can show on how devastation of a rice crop by a disaster can trigger a chain impact across several industries and services. For example, transportation, rice trading, packaging, and retail. So, the failure or devastation of a rice crop by a disaster can trigger a chain of events, and that will impact the other areas of industries and services. So, the three important areas in which the data analysis can help in managing the natural disasters in a better way are first, the efficient allocation of resources, secondly, the identification of most vulnerable population, and thirdly, the identification of indirect impact of disaster. Now, various initiatives have been started around the world which are related to the use of data analysis in disaster management. For example, India has initiated the establishment of a comprehensive disaster database system. Secondly, the United Nations Development Programme or UNDP has started working with its partners and has established national disaster loss and damage databases in several countries. Further, UNDP has also created a global center for data statistics. And the aim of establishing such a center is to gather and crunch big data to meet the ambitious targets of the Sendai Framework on disaster management. So, all these initiatives show that the use of data analysis in disaster management has been recognized and several initiatives have been taken in this direction. Now, let us understand some of the key aspects of the Sendai Framework for disaster risk reduction. Now, Sendai is a place in Japan, and this framework is within the period from 2015 to 2030, and it was endorsed by the UN General Assembly, which took this decision based on the third UN Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction. It is a 15-year voluntary and non-binding agreement. The Sendai Framework recognizes that state has the primary role to reduce the disaster risk. However, this responsibility should be shared with other stakeholders, including the local government, the private sector, and other stakeholders. Thus, the Sendai Framework talks about a multi-stakeholder approach. Further, the objectives of Sendai Framework include substantial reduction of disaster risk and losses in lives, livelihoods, and health, and in the economic, physical, social, cultural, and environmental assets of persons, businesses, communities, and countries. So, these are some of the aspects of the Sendai Framework for disaster risk reduction. Now, while analyzing the previous year question that was asked in 2013, the question reads, as an administrator, what are the key areas that you would focus on in a disaster management system? Now, one of the suggestions could be the use of big data in the disaster management system. And this aspect has been covered in detail in this article. With this, let us move on to the next article. With this, we have come to the end of today's discussion. Now, let us move on to the question for the day.